Do you want an Argentavis with over 3,000 carry weight? What about a Rex that can pump out damage? Follow this guide and you'll find yourself fighting bosses with ease. I'm MatcherXD and this is your master guide to breeding dinos. To understand dino breeding, we first need to understand the basic mechanics of the game. Every dino in the game has unique base stats and scaling. The easiest way I have found to find dinos' base stats is to go to Dododex.com, choose your dino, and scroll down to its stats. Base stats are the stats a dino has at level 1. Every level past level 1 gives the dino a point to spend. Each point is assigned to one of 6 random stats. The points affect the dino differently depending on if the dino is wild or tamed. For example, 1 level into health will increase a Rex's health by 220 if it's wild, and 5.4% if it's tamed. A level 61 Rex has 60 points to spend into its stats, meaning it will have an average of 10 points into each stat. Levels put into stats while a dino is wild will often result in greater stats. For example, a Rex's damage increases by 5% while it's wild, and 1.7% while it's tamed. A lot of the stats are additive, but some of them increase by percentages. It's not clear if the percentages increase by the dino's wild level, its starting tamed level, or its current level, so I did some in-game experiments to find out. I tamed a level 150 RG which leveled up to 224, and I tracked its carry weight before and after taming. I did the same with a level 45 RG which leveled up to 67. I put 3 points into the level 224's weight, and each time it increased by 40. Since the number did not increase with its stat, that means the percentage is not based off of the current level. A 40 weight increase is a 6.6% of its base wild stat, and 5.5% of its base tamed stat. This percent matches the Dododex entry, so we will conclude that the percentage is based off of the dino's base tamed stat. Because the 224 RG had a higher base tamed weight, its scaling per point should be higher than the 67. This means the higher your base tame stats are, the more stats you get per point. Now that we understand the stats, let's move on. When breeding, the offspring randomly takes stats from each parent. There is a 55% chance that it takes the higher stat from its parents. This means there's a 2.7% chance of getting all of the highest stats on the first try, or it'll take you an average of 37 offspring to get all of the highest stats. Because the offspring takes stats randomly, it is possible that it takes all of the bad stats and becomes lower level than either of the parents. Making super dinos takes an incredibly long time. Breeding, hatching, and growing is already a long process, but what stops most players from attempting to make super dinos is the female dino cooldown timer. In official, the cooldown between breeding is 18 and 48 hours. If you wanted a single female Rex to have 3 babies without twins, it would take you 54 to 144 hours, or 2 to 6 days. Like we said before, the likelihood of getting all of the stats you want is 2.7%, which means you are likely going to have to breed 37 babies before you get the perfect stats. If you only used 1 female Rex, that would take you 28 to 74 days. That is just for crossbreeding the best stats and not even getting mutations. Now if you swap out studs and use all of your females, you can significantly shorten the process, but it'll take some time still. Later on in the video, I'll be showing you how to do this efficiently. The first thing you have to do when creating super dinos is crossbreeding. You will need to tame at least 1 male and 1 female dino, and crossbreed them until you get the best stats from either parent. The offspring is called a perfect dino, and you will need a perfect male and female before you can continue. Crossbreeding is important because you will have the best stats possible before starting mutations. Both of your perfects will have the same level and stats, so their offspring will also have the same level and stats. This way you won't get a bunch of low-level babies. And when a mutation occurs, it will be obvious because the babies will have a higher level than all the other dinos. This process sounds easy, but in practice is somewhat complicated. I'll demonstrate later on in this video. Min-maxing is logically easy, but it makes the process complicated. On official servers, there is a dino level max of 450, There's also a stat max of 250. This means that if a stat already has 255 points, then you cannot invest any experience points into the stat. If you want a dino with maximum stat points into your desired stats, you will need to lower the points of your other stats. You can get 0 points in stats by taming the lowest level Rexes possible and making sure their taming efficiency is 0% by hitting them. Once you have Rexes with ultra low stats, then you can crossbreed the unwanted stats into your perfect Rexes. The only way to get mutations is to breed dinos. For each offspring, up to 3 mutations can occur, each with a 1 in 40 chance. Multiple mutations can occur, and when they do, they are assigned randomly. Because 3 mutations are being rolled for every offspring, that means there is a 1 in 14 chance that an offspring will have a single mutation. The chance of an offspring having 2 or 3 mutations is less than 1%. The chances of mutations can be reduced if the matrilineal or patrilineal lines are 20 or above, but I'll explain that more later on in the video. The only way in ASA to get more mutations is to have more babies. Because females have a cooldown and males don't, that means you want more females to get more babies. A handy rule of thumb is to always keep at least one perfect male without mutations. Another rule of thumb is to always use perfect females without mutations. The reason for these two rules is due to the matrilineal and patrilineal lines. Matrilineal and patrilineal lines are the amount of mutations passed on by either parent. The likelihood of a mutation occurring is determined by the amount of mutations that are coming from either parent. An offspring who has less than 20 mutations coming from either parent has a 1 in 14 chance of creating a new mutation. One who has 20 or more mutations coming from either parent has a 1 in 25 chance of creating a new mutation. And finally, an offspring who has 20 or more mutations coming from both parents has a 0% chance of creating mutations. Because of this, you want at least one parent to have 0 mutations. The female should have 0 mutations because the stud can be replaced by a new stud. The mutated female can only breed with one non-mutated male before it has a cooldown, significantly slowing your progress. You will want to keep all of your perfect non-mutated females and at least one non-mutated male. The male is used if a new mutation occurs on a female. You just breed the mutated female with a non-mutated male until you get a male with the desired mutations. This male is your new stud. The perfect male can go back on standby, and the female is no longer needed. So how do you breed super dinos? The process can be broken down into 3 steps: taming wild dinos, crossbreeding, and getting mutations. The first thing you have to do is tame high-level dinos. If you are mid-maxing, you will also want to tame level 5 dinos as well. The minimum amount of dinos you need is 1 male and 1 female. The maximum is unlimited, although the more dinos you have, the more data you will have to crunch. Next is to start crossbreeding. Identify which dinos have the best stats. For mid-maxing, identify which dinos have the highest desired stats and which dinos have the lowest undesired stats. Remove dinos who don't have any stats you want. Breed a pair of dinos together until you get an offspring who has the desired stats of both parents. Repeat until you have a male and a female dino with all of the desired stats. These are your perfect male and female. Breed the perfect dinos together until you get a mutation in your desired stat. If the mutation occurs on a female, then breed the mutated female with a perfect male until you get a male with the desired mutations. If the mutation occurs on a male, then replace it with your current stud. Repeat until you reach max level. Now that we understand how all the mechanics work, let's take what we learned and put it into practice. We are going to be breeding some max level Rexes with a focus on melee damage. First thing to do is tame Rexes. You will need at least 1 male and 1 female, but for this experiment, we will be taming 9 Rexes. The more high-level dinos you have, the better stats you will have to choose from. I tamed any dino that was level 120 or higher. Keep in mind a wild dino's stats can be bad, but after getting its tamed bonus levels, it can still have great stats. After taming, it's time to crossbreed. We take all of the stats and points from each Rex and write them into a spreadsheet. I personally use Google Sheets. Next, we identify which Rexes have the best of each stat. Any Rexes that do not have the best stat should be removed from the process. Now we need to choose which two Rexes to breed. M5 has the most stats, and F1 is the first in the list, so we'll start with these two. To save time, we'll also breed M4 and F3 at the same time. Now we breed these two together until we get a male or female with all of the best stats. Lucky for us, we got a baby Rex with all of the parents' best stats. Because the baby has all of the best stats, neither of the parents are needed anymore. Though, I would keep the female to counter the cooldown timer. Next, we will be breeding M4 with F3 and 4. We are choosing these because they have less stats to trade, which means they have a better chance of getting all of the best stats. F5 did not get their food stat from M4, so we can't move on. But now we have another female to speed up the process. M7 got both of the parents' best stats, so F4 can be put on standby while M4 is replaced by the new stud. F6 got food and weight from the father, but didn't get damage from the mother, so F6 is going on standby. M8 only got food. Because M7 has better stats, M8 will be removed from the process. F5 had twins. Unfortunately, they only got the food stat, and will have to be put on standby. F9 got damage and food, but didn't get the weight. They can still be used to increase our odds of getting the damage stat. And we have more twins. F5's twins didn't get any good stats, so we removed them. F9's twins got the food stat, but they're both males with lower stats than the stud, so we removed them. F10 got weight and damage, so we can use them to increase our odds. F13 only got food, so they will be put on standby. M11 and 12 are the first males with a damage stat, but they don't have weight. So we're going to use M11 with our standby females that have the weight stat. F14 is missing weight, but can be added to the list. F15 is missing damage, so it has to be put on standby. M13 and 14 are twin males with lower stats than the stud, so they will be removed. M15 is our first Rex to have all three stats, and has better stats than the current stud, so we will be replacing the studs. F15 and F16 don't have all the stats, but we can still use them. M16 has less stats than the stud, so he will be removed. Now that we have a male Rex with all of the stats, we can move on to the next step. For now, we will put all the females with stats we already have on standby. Now we have reduced all of our best stats into 2 male Rexes. Since most of our standby females have M15 stats, we will be using M6 for the next part. Now we breed M6 with any female Rex that has a stat that M6 doesn't have. All the males missing stats from the stud can be removed. F18 has our first desired mutation. You don't want mutations during the crossbreeding phase, so we will put F18 on standby. Both M17 and M24 have all the stud's stats plus 1 additional stat. For now, we will use M24 and put M17 on standby. To prevent overcomplication, we're going to stick with 12 females. Any females that have better stats will replace the old ones. The rest can be removed. All the males missing stats from the studs can be removed. M27 and M28 have all the studs stats plus 1 additional stat. We will use M28 because we have more females with the food stat. Any female that doesn't have the food stat can be removed. All the males missing stats from the stud can be removed. Keep females with the food stat and put the rest on standby. All the males missing stats from the stud can be removed. We have our first perfect Rex, and it's a male. Now that we have a perfect male, the other males can be removed. To get a perfect female, we just need to breed the perfect male with all the females. If you want to lower the complexity, only breed the male with females that have at least 4 perfect stats. After breeding all 32 females, we got 1 perfect male and 2 perfect females for a total of 4 perfect Rexes. Now that we have at least 1 perfect male and 1 perfect female, any non-perfect Rexes can be removed from the process. Since we have Rexes with all the best stats, and the stats are the same, we are done with the crossbreeding process. The process took 12 generations, and we made 81 Rexes. In official, this process would have taken 216 to 576 hours to complete, or 9 to 24 days straight. Now we can start getting mutations. To get mutations, we just have to breed the perfect dinos until we get an offspring with a desired mutation. After 10 generations, we got our first damage mutation. The mutation is on a female, so we have to breed it with a perfect male to get a male with a new mutation. I stopped collecting females once I reached 80 because I ran out of room for a single stud. This is what one stud to 80 females looks like. After 421 generations, we managed to get 103 mutations, giving us 206 additional points into damage. With our original 49 points, we have a total of 255 damage points. And this is what max damage can do. And that's how you make a Super Rex. In official, 421 generations would take you 7,578 to 20,208 hours, or 10.5 months to 2 years and 4 months. As you can see, the process for breeding super dinos is long. I suggest if you plan on breeding super dinos in a reasonable amount of time, do so with increased rates and even mods to assist with the process. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped out in some way. If you're looking to hang out and chat, I also stream on Twitch. Feel free to drop on by and join the fun. You can find my schedule on my Twitch channel. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!